Welcome, colleagues. We have just started this webinar on the sector level maps assessment of Ethiopia. We're going to be allowing people a couple of minutes to join in before getting started. Welcome to everybody joining on this afternoon. We have a nice lineup of some speakers who have been intimately involved with this assessment and who's going to present the finding and conclusions, and also what and how the results are going to be leveraged in Ethiopia. And I see that people are slowly joining, but we will give them a little more time. Welcome to anybody who has just joined. We are just about to start the webinar, giving colleagues a few more minutes to join in. But in just a little while, we will be starting this webinar. I will start also by saying that the webinar is being recorded, which you probably already informed of by the Zoom client, and that the recording will be made available after the webinar. We will also in the MAP Secretariat distribute it on our communication channels so that it reaches an even wider audience. But welcome to this webinar this afternoon. We are very pleased to host this hour of deep dive into the sector level assessment of Ethiopia water and road sectors. And we will have speakers presenting both the findings and recommendations of the assessment, as well as contextualizing how the results will be used in Ethiopia. And I think we will get started, and then people can drop in as the hour progresses. But to make sure that everybody gets their allotted speaking slot and get their time, I will not say anything other than that we are very happy to have all of the speakers who have agreed to be here today to present this very important assessment. For us at the MAP Secretariat, it's a particularly interesting assessment, as it is one of the very first assessments done with the sector level assessment tool. And that as it is also an assessment done building on a main maps assessment that was completed some years ago in Ethiopia, and noting the, what can we say, the particular context of Ethiopia as a very large federally organized country. So I'm sure that this assessment is not only going to be a useful resource inside of Ethiopia, but that it's going to be a much consulted document in the global public procurement community. So we thank you all for being here today, and we look very much forward to hearing what you have to tell us. And with that, I am trying to navigate the presentation. Unfortunately, it's moving a little bit slow for me today, so you will have to bear with me. Just a moment. At any time you feel like it, you drop your questions in the Zoom chat, and we will answer them either live in case they're directed at some of the speakers, or in writing. If we do answer it live, it will most likely be in the Q&A towards the end of the session to allow the speakers to complete their presentation. But feel free to do that. And with that, I will hand over the floor to Elmas Arisoy, who is a procurement practice manager at the World Bank and has been a key person in this assessment. Elmas, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much, Yepe. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. I'd like to thank MAP Secretariat for organizing this webinar. It's an interesting topic, so we will spend an hour together to have a deep dive on Ethiopia sector level assessments on public procurement. And thank you very much for inviting me to give this opening remarks. As many of you may know, in Ethiopia, we have conducted the core MAPS assessment a few years ago. It was finalized in 2022 and published in the website of MAPS Secretariat. Following this assessment, the bank continued to provide technical and financial support to strengthen the country procurement systems in Ethiopia by preparing an action plan based on the core MAPS assessment, and also helping to formulate a procurement reform strategy for Ethiopia. These documents guided the strengthening of public procurement system in Ethiopia, and also it helped to define the bank's interventions in this area. So the bank continued to provide financial support through investment financing operations, which helped to strengthen the public procurement authority in Ethiopia. And also it helped to revise the public procurement law of Ethiopia very recently, which was finalized and issued in June 2024. And these actions, strengthening public procurement authority and also revising the public procurement law, are addressing the recommendations of core MAPS assessment. So another recommendation of the core MAPS assessment was to conduct sector level assessments, to have a deep dive on certain sectors to identify more sector specific issues in public procurement. So for this purpose, road and water sectors were selected, which are the very important sectors in the country, receiving the highest share of financial resources, public resources. And also it has a very high socioeconomic importance in the country, in the development of the country. So based on the request from the government of Ethiopia, the bank continued to provide technical and financial support in conducting this assessment. And we worked very, very closely with the Public Procurement Authority. We had a very close collaboration with them. In addition to Public Procurement Authority, we work with relevant sectors, relevant agencies working in these sectors, in water and road sectors. So the assessment is finalized and published recently, and it really identified the more sector-specific procurement challenges and made some recommendations to address those challenges. These issues were not really identified at the core MAPS assessment, so sector level assessment is really helping to identify sector-specific issues and solutions. So I'd like to emphasize that these kinds of assessments are very helpful, and it really helps the sectors, specific sectors, to think through what needs to be done in that specific sector to strengthen the procurement system. Not only the procurement activities, but also outcomes, how to achieve better procurement outcomes. So based on these findings and recommendations, relevant government agencies, relevant sector ministries are playing a very important role, working together with the Public Procurement Authority. They started to implement some of these recommendations, and we still have a long way to go. to implement many of these recommendations coming from core maps assessment as well as sector level assessments. As I mentioned, the bank has been providing investment financing, investment project financing in this area, as well as policy level lending to provide budget support to Ethiopian government to strengthen various aspects of public procurement system, including strengthening electronic procurement system, rolling out an effective use of this system is very critical for all the sectors, including these two sectors. Also, sustainable public procurement was one of the recommendations from both core maps assessment and sector level assessment. And these are, and this sustainable public procurement is extremely critical for both sectors in roads and in water sectors. And enhancing procurement professionalization in both sectors again. These are still work in progress. So electronic procurement, sustainable public procurement, and procurement professionalization are still ongoing. And the bank will continue to work together with the Ethiopian government to implement these recommendations. So I also like to mention that this assessment, sector level assessment, is the first of its kind. Based on the experience we gained in Ethiopia, our team shared our feedback with the MAP Secretariat, and hopefully it will help MAP Secretariat to refine the module for this type of assessments. And hopefully this webinar will be useful for other countries to prepare and conduct similar sector level assessments in their countries. I'd like to encourage all participants to engage with the presenters and try to get the maximum benefit from this 1 hour webinar. Wishing a very successful 1 hour to all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elmas, for those comments and remarks, contextualizing this assessment in the country and also offering the context from the side of the World Bank. And for sure, we echo and return your appreciation for the very nice and good feedback that you have given us following this assessment. And it has been a pleasure to see it play out in real life and to take those experiences and use them to improve the tool. And with that, as you all know, and if you don't, then I'm delighted to tell you now, a MAPS assessment is always collaboration between key stakeholders in a country, and that has for sure also been the case here. Obviously, as Elmas indicated, the World Bank has been playing a key role, but you don't have an assessment without strong involvement from the public procurement authorities and from the general country authorities of a country. And for sure, this is something that has been a strong factor in this assessment. And we will hear later as well from more of the country authorities. But for now, I would like to invite the Deputy Director, Mr. Volder Demesi from Ethiopia, from the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, to also contextualize this assessment and to deliver some opening remarks. So, Mr. Demesi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning and maybe good afternoon because of the time zone. Let me start with recognizing, the collaboration of the bank and the government of Ethiopia, in order to address the procurement system, strengthening the procurement systems. The Ethiopian government and the World Bank, has agreed to conduct the MAPS assessment, which is the core MAPS assessment, And also with recognizing of that core maps assessment, it's also agreed to go with this SLA sector level assessment, which is the roads and the water sector. As it has been mentioned, these two sectors are very crucial for government because of two issues. One is they are using more resources, and the second aspect is more economical benefit to the society, because the water is helping for irrigation purpose. The road is also, as you know. So because of this, as a government, we agreed to have such assessment, because improving on that sector would benefit the government. That was the basic argument which he shared that. So with this assessment, the assessment identified the key strengths and the gaps. We can see from presentations, the next presentation. And we also recognize that we need to improve by setting of such gaps to fill, which maybe focus on the rules and regulations and also on the systems. So we recognize that. We acknowledge the study's recommendation is very crucial and useful in order to address the internationally acceptable basic procurement principles. Those assessment would help us to address procurement principles like the value for money, transparency, accountability, fairness, and others. So when those recommendations has been recognized and get fills the gap, so we address this principles. We believe that. So we, as it has been said, we designed the strategy how to implement the recommendations. So we tried to address some of the recommendations in the proclamation, which is recently approved by the Parliament. And we are also working on the second legislation, like we call it directives and standard bid documents. And some of the recommendation also with the rolling out of the AGP, what we call it electronic government procurement. So by consolidating all these improvements, I think the assessment would be, the recommendation of the assessment will be, realized, and we believe that we will be one of the best countries which have been using, the best procurement process. On the other hand, in order to conduct these studies and also implementing EGP and others, as it has been said by Elmas, the financial support is very crucial, and we have been using the IPF budgets from the World Bank Group, and we also expect to have, to continue this financial support in order to strengthen this system and be ready at least to footing level at other countries, especially the EGP, which electronic government procurement needs huge investment, and proceed with the capacity of other procuring entities. So I believe this financial support will be continued. But in saying that, this conducting such kind of assessment is very helpful, and I also encourage other countries to engage with this kind of assessment, because we as a government, we are benefited from such assessment, because we easily identified the gaps and we have know where is our gap. So this kind of assessment is very helpful. By saying this, I believe others also benefit from this assessment report, and countries will be encouraged to have such kind of this assessment. So by this, I thank you very much for listening and wish you to have a good discussion time. Thank you very much. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. De Messi, for those remarks. And again, also contextualizing the role that an assessment can play for a country such as Ethiopia. And with that, I think we should move on to hearing about the actual assessment. And for this, we have to begin with the lead assessor, Mr. Demelash Dempsey. So Demelash, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, JP. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, participants all over the world. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. My name is Demelash Dempsey, Senior Procurement Specialist in the World Bank Ethiopia Country Office. I was also the task team leader for this sector level assessment in Ethiopia. We are very glad sharing our experience with you today in this webinar. How we did the assessment, what are the findings, and what are the next steps. Next presenter, my colleague Frey will present on the next step. What are the way forwards. I would like also to thank the MAP Secretariat, as always, for organizing this webinar and for providing continuous support.
It seems like we might have a slight technical issue with the connection from our Ethiopian colleagues. But give us a second and let's see if he comes back on.
Hello, can you hear? Yeah.
We hear you now, Demelash.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of background, Ethiopia is located in East Africa, as most of you know. It is the second most populous country in Africa next to Nigeria, with a population size of more than 110 million. It's a big country. It's a federal state comprising of the federal government, 12 subnational states, 2 city administrations. Each of these states do have their own constitution. They do have their own proclamations, regulatory frameworks in every aspects of government function, including on procurement, which means in procurement we have more than we have 15 procurement proclamations, procurement regulatory frameworks and directives and all that. We have close to 4,000 procuring entities across the country in all subnational states and at the federal government. Share of procurement expenditure is expected to be more than 60% of the national budget. As Elmas and Atoldeva mentioned, we carried out, in collaboration with the government of Ethiopia and other donor partners, we carried out the core maps assessment, which was delivered in June 2020. In fact, the publication of the report, it took time, but the report was finally approved in the World Bank in June 2020. And following the core maps assessment, again, World Bank provided technical and financial support, and the government prepared procurement reform strategy document and action plan. That was in 2021. And one of the priority recommendation which emanated from the core maps was to have this deep dive assessment on key economic sector of the economy, deep dive assessment, procurement assessment on the sector. That was the basis for undertaking sector level assessment in Ethiopia. Next slide, please. In terms of focus, as discussed, we focused on road and water sectors because of various reasons, which the main ones are they consume, these 2 sectors consume significant share of government budget. In 2022, when we do the assessment, when we were compiling the concept note, we checked the budget that goes to these 2 sectors, and we found out that close to 45% of the budget went to this sector in that fiscal year. Therefore, these are key sectors in the economy. In terms of socio-economic and equitable development, they are identified as key sectors in the government strategy document. Also, at the time of the assessment, at the time when we initiate the assessment, due to internal external shocks, there was COVID, and in Ethiopia there was internal conflict, and also war going on globally. All that impacted projects in these two sectors. There was a lot of projects which were impacted due to all those shocks. As a result, there was interest from the government side really to resolve procurement and contract management issues on these sectors. In terms of states, we covered the federal government and Addis Ababa City Administration. Addis Ababa City Administration was selected because of the proximity. At the same time, it represents other subnational states. Subnational states and city administrations do have somehow comparable experience, comparable capacity on procurement. Therefore, Addis Ababa City Administration was selected to represent the subnational states. In terms of public bodies, in the road sector, we selected Ethiopia Road Administration and Addis Ababa City Road Authority. Ethiopia Road Administration is responsible for construction and rehabilitation of roads which are financed by the federal government, whereas Addis Ababa City Road is responsible for road construction within Addis Ababa City. In the water sector, we selected Ministry of Water and Energy, Ministry of Irrigation for the irrigation part, and also Addis Ababa Water and Sewage Authority. These are three sectors in the three agencies in the water sector. This is where procurement data has been collected. Otherwise, we visited so many agencies. We visited technical regulatory agencies, procurement regulatory agencies, Ministry of Finance, Bureau of Finance, in case of Addis Ababa City Administration, and contractors association, engineers associations, all stakeholders. We collected data from all those stakeholders to respond to the request, to the indicators in the module. Next slide, please. In terms of process, initially government requested this sector level assessment right after we completed the action plan, which emanated after the core maps assessment. That was in August 2021, and the process took a bit of time. And finally, World Bank established assessment team comprising of national and international experts. Assessment steering committee was established in September 2022, and we had this launch workshop with stakeholders, private sector consultation in October 2022. Private sector survey was carried out in February 2023, and validation workshop was carried out on May 25, 2023. Report was finally reviewed and approved within the bank management in June 2023. And finally, the report was published 2 months ago on MAP's website. Now you can find the sector level assessment both on the road and water sector on the MAP's website. Thank you. Next slide, please. In terms of findings and recommendations, if I don't mention specifically one of the two sectors, that means the findings and recommendations apply for both sectors. For instance, inconsistency and contradiction in procurement documents. We have seen that the procurement documents, particularly the legal documents, in some cases there are inconsistencies. We have found lower level documents like circulars, directives violating the provisions in the primary documents. In fact, this is not any finding. It has been there in the core maps assessment as well, because in Ethiopia we don't have a specialized procurement proclamation for the sectors. The sectors use the proclamation, the national proclamation, which we do have at the federal government and also in the subnational. Therefore, because we don't have any specialized proclamation, this is not any finding. It was there in the core maps assessment. As Atwell have said, some of those findings has been addressed due to because of the recently amended proclamation. There was initiative to address that. There is inadequate and unsuitable standard bidding document we found. The standard bidding documents are old. They were issued in 2010 and 2011, like 13, 14 years back. In terms of content, we have found that some provisions are not consistent with the best practices. For instance, on price adjustment, on dispute resolutions. Those provisions are not consistent, and at the same time, the standard bidding documents were issued only for traditional way of project delivery. They don't entertain non-traditional way of project delivery, like turnkey design and build kind of contracts are not supported with relevant standard bidding document. These are delivery mechanisms very much relevant, particularly for the water and road sector, and that is also one finding which is applicable for both sectors. There is lack of sustainable public procurement policy and strategy. There is some progress since this assessment, but comprehensive sustainable public procurement policy is not there. We are not yet there. In terms of developing these sustainable public procurement policies, there is progress, but we are still we have to go a bit forward, to achieve this. Of course, the assessment recognized as
Demelash, excuse me, but it seems that there might be a small problem with your microphone. We can hear something, but not exactly what you're saying. So we hear that someone is speaking, but it seems like there is, we don't hear clearly the words. If all colleagues listening will bear with us for a moment. I think we are trying to get Demelash to connect the sound from an alternative source. And I'm sure that we will be back up and running in just a few moments.
Demelesh, maybe you can get some help from IT or disconnect and connect again.
Possibly a headset could solve the situation a little bit. It sounds like might be an issue with the input because we hear your sound, but it sounds muted. I think that they have just tried to disconnect and reconnect, so we are hoping that that will help. And we will try to get them established with a solid. We have you back on, Demelash.
Hello?
Now we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
My apologies. Well, we are in the bank office, but unfortunately, it's not working just for today. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was on the sustainable public procurement. Yes, I was saying, the current, even the existing proclamations, entertain some element of sustainable public procurement, especially life cycle costing. What we have seen is, in practice, implementation is a bit weak, but the provision is there. Therefore, as a recommendation, at least for a short term, utilizing the existing provision and undertaking, sustainable public procurement has been recommended, but ultimately, in the long run, developing sustainable public procurement policy procedures and tools and ensuring implementation has been recommended. In terms of rules on participation, we have seen that some discriminatory qualification requirements has been used, especially in the road sector. In the road sector, in the same procurement process for foreign bidders and local bidders, they use different qualification requirements, and which is in fact discriminatory, which also violates the principles of non-discrimination, which has been promoted in the primary procurement document. Participation of state-owned enterprise as bidders, as buyers, has not been.
Demelash, I'm afraid that we lost your sound again. Perhaps you can try connecting a headset and see if that helps. Sound as though there is a problem with your input. And in case that it might be a problem of connectivity, you are also welcome to turn off the video if that helps. Please bear with us, colleagues. Maps is a global tool, and it is sometimes an issue that we encounter with various types of connectivity and technical assistance when people have to beam in from across the world. There are many advantages to virtual events that we are able to even have a meeting such as today. But once in a while, we do encounter hiccups like this. So thank you for staying with us. And we hope to be back on track as soon as possible. And of course, in the meantime, feel free to reflect if there are any questions that you might be interested in asking of either of the Ethiopian authorities or Demelash.
Hello?
Hello, Demelash.
Yeah, I think I'm back.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Please do carry on.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, in terms of rules on participation, as I said, in the road sector, there are some discriminatory qualification requirements which have been practiced. Therefore, avoiding discriminatory and prohibitive qualification requirements has been recommended. In the water sector, particularly the state-owned enterprises involvement as bidders, as buyers, has not been covered in the procurement proclamation. This is important in the water sector where state-owned enterprises presence has been dominant. In terms of PPP, public-private partnership, the Ministry of Finance issued specialized PPP proclamation some years back, and they do have also structure in the Ministry of Finance where they vet these PPP projects proposals and allow sectors, to use PPP arrangement to deliver public projects. Unfortunately, these two sectors, though they are very much relevant for PPP arrangements, their projects, but unfortunately, no much work has not been done. Of course, in the road sector, there is some progress. They have identified projects for PPP arrangement, and these projects have been approved by the PPP board in the Ministry of Finance, and they are on their way to approach the market. But in the Ministry of Finance, in the water sector, use of this PPP arrangement has been weak. It has not been yet started, and our recommendation is whenever it's appropriate, utilizing PPP arrangement to deliver public projects in these two sectors is very important. This is one of the recommendations we have under Pillar 1. Next slide, please. On Pillar 2, this is institutional and management capacity. One of the findings which cut across in every sector in Ethiopia, particularly in these two sectors, very important is budget shortage, especially the foreign currency portion. They do have for projects, they do have the local currency portion, but payment in foreign currency has been a challenge due to shortage of foreign currency. Therefore, in terms of recommendation, ensuring budget availability before soliciting bids is recommended, including availability of foreign currency portion of the contracts. In terms of technical standards, what we have seen is particularly in the water sector, we don't have an approved national technical standard, be it for the infrastructure, be it for equipments that are important to deliver water facilities. In the road sector, we do have national standard, an approved national standard, but the problem in the road sector is, preparing and maintaining technical standard has been delegated, to different agencies, to multiple agencies. There are duplications and risk of inconsistencies, and addressing this has been recommended. A specialized procurement unit, we do have a specialized procurement unit in the road sector. In the road sector, we do have engineering procurement units, very strong, very qualified experts are assigned there. But in the water sector, we don't have similar arrangements. We don't have engineering procurement units. We don't have specialized procurement units that is commensurate with the responsibilities they have. They do have this technical procurements in the water sector, but comparable procurement units and capacities not there. There are staff, there are qualified staff, but these staff are financed by projects, mostly by World Bank projects, and there is no sustainable specialized procurement units in the sector. Limited use of technology in both sectors. We have seen that EGP has been implemented at federal level, but there are limitations. In the road sector, large value contracts, which uses FIDIC condition of contract, because FIDIC condition of contract is not integrated with the EGP system. Large value contracts are implemented outside of the EGP system. Only small value contracts are implemented in the road sector using EGP system. In the water sector, implementation it's just at infant stage. And at the same time, subnational states, regions, including Addis Ababa city administrations, has not started establishing EGP system. There is that problem, and at the same time, capturing data, analyzing data using the EGP system and informing procurement decision, we are not yet there. It is still at infant stage. There is absence of specialized procurement training, particularly this permanent procurement training. These two sectors require specialized skills, procurement skills, but there is no training program to capacitate staff with the required level of skill. In the public procurement agencies, there is a professionalization training program, which includes 4 levels of expertise: advanced, essential level, basic level, and also specialized one. But for the specialized one, training module has not been prepared and training has not been delivered. Therefore, because of that, there is this training gap, which we recommended, developing module, especially for the specialized level, and delivering this specialized training, on continuous basis, has been recommended. Pillars, next slide. Yeah, thank you. Under Pillar 3, this is procurement, operation and market practice. What we have seen is, there are delays, procurement delays in initiating procurement, and also throughout the procurement cycle, the decision cycle, there are delays. There are contract time overruns in both sectors. We have seen that. Preparing realistic procurement plan and also enhancing contract management capacity has been recommended. There are systemic challenges limiting competition. This is particularly related with shortage of foreign currency. For those contracts that require importing goods and services from abroad, which require foreign currency, bidders are not interested, to participate in such kind of contracts, because there is a bit of challenge in accessing foreign currency. Because of that, they don't deliver contracts. They don't deliver their responsibilities. Therefore, finally, they'll be penalized. Therefore, there is avoidance, to participate in such contracts. Even after signing contracts, completing the contracts, because of these issues, including inflation. We passed through a period where there was hyperinflation in the economy, in the market. Because of that, especially in the contracts where price adjustment provisions are not being entertained, especially this is relevant for water sector contracts. It has been a challenge, completing contracts. There are limited capacity of the private sector, especially in the water sector, and there is high reliance on state-owned enterprises in the water sector. The private sector, there are very limited participants in the sector, and even those participants, they don't have the required capacity, to engage in high-value contracts, attracting, encouraging entry to the sector is very critical, and developing capacity of the private sector is very important. The government has to think of providing different incentives, including finance, tax exemptions, market access, and all that. But currently, what we see is there is too much reliance on state-owned enterprise, which have got its own challenge. They do have contracts beyond their capacity, and timely delivery and being cost effective it has been a challenge. There is inefficient evaluation procedure, particularly in the road sector. We have seen that there is a practice of involving other agencies during evaluation to verify documents, to verify, for instance, audit reports, all that. Because of that, it has created additional layers, decision-making layer, and delay in the process. Next slide, please. In terms of lessons learned, one is streamlining the module is very important. Streamlining the sector level assessment module is very important. What we have seen is, of course, the indicators, the criteria are much lesser than the core maps, but in terms of process, you go through the same process which we have gone during the core maps. Therefore, even the sector level assessment is intensive by itself. It requires a lot of effort from the government, a lot of effort from agencies that are leading this assessment. Therefore, as much as possible, avoiding duplication between the core maps and the sector level assessment is very critical. Especially what we have seen is particularly in Pillar 1 on the legal framework, where in the countries where there are no specialized procurement proclamation for the sectors, we are assessing the same proclamation, the same law which we have assessed under the core maps. Therefore, as much as possible, avoiding duplication, we recommend, and also trying to identify root causes instead of, in addition to identifying deviation from rules. It is good also to identify root causes, why problems are created. For instance, if there are delays, why delay? Why time overruns? Why cost overruns? This kind of assessment has to be there, so that the assessors can provide practical recommendations based on data. But the current arrangement is the module is almost similar to the core maps. Also, as Elmas said earlier, focusing on the output of the system, what the system is delivering in terms of results is very important. In my view, excluding Pillar 4 from the sectoral assessment is a bit problematic in my view. Of course, the module says if there are sector-specific issues, we can update the Pillar 4 of the core maps. But as we understand, the Pillar 4 in the core maps is for the country system. The indicators, the criteria are defined, are crafted to assess the system at national level, not at sector level. It is very important to have sector level assessment in terms of accountability, in terms of transparency and integrity for the sectors, so that we can identify and define sector specific challenges with regard to Pillar 4. This is our reflection on the module. Time is very essential between the core maps and the sector level assessment, because the sector level assessment is valid as long as the core maps is valid. If the core maps is not valid, the sector level assessment, it can't be valid, because the two are complementary reports. They have to be read with each others, and they are not separate by themselves. Particularly, the sector level assessment report is not complete by itself, unless it is complemented with the core maps assessment. Therefore, time is very important. We have to carry out the sector level assessment when the core maps assessment report is valid. But at the same time, we have to also watch out from creating fatigue within the government. Assessment fatigue is very essential. Which we need to watch out. Not only within the government, even with the agencies that are leading this assessment, it's very important to watch out. Therefore, striking the balance in terms of time is essential. Selecting the assessment team very carefully is very important, especially involving sector specialists is very critical. There are a lot of sector technical issues that you need to deal with during this assessment. Therefore, qualified technical specialists have to be in the core assessment team. The other one is working closely with the MAP Secretariat. We benefited a lot. For this, I would like to thank JP and Nicolas as well. For all the support you provided us during the assessment. It has been very, very helpful. Whenever we had a problem, whenever we need guidance, you were there to provide us all the support. And what I would like to encourage other teams, which do this kind of assessment, please work closely with the MAP Secretariat. I think this is all from my side. Thank you so much. Over to you, JP.
Thank you so much, Demirtaş. And we are going to speed on to get the input as well from the director of the Ethiopian Roads Administration, Mr. Bekele. The floor is yours. Go ahead, and I hope that colleagues will be willing to just stay a few more minutes to hear the conclusions from the country authorities, which is, after all, where the assessment results are leveraged. So over to you, Frey.
Okay, thank you very much. As Demirtaş presented, a lot of issues were raised during the assessment of maps and then the sector level assessment. The good thing was this assessment was ready while the government was revising the public procurement proclamation. So it gives a good opportunity for the government to update and to consider most of the issues raised on the assessment. To reflect on some of the assessment points and the action taken by the government, let me start from the document inconsistencies. As you know, our proclamations and bidding documents was prepared before 10 years back, 13 or 14 years back. So through time, there are some amendments which were released by the government as circulars and some other things. Some of them have the conflict with the original proclamation. So during this assessment, those points were noted, and those inconsistencies has already been addressed in the revised proclamation. So this gives us good opportunity for us to update the inconsistencies. With respect to the standard bidding documents, as Demirtaş expressed, we have a very limited standard documents for the procurement of workers. We use only bill of quantity contract standard bid document. We don't have a standard for DB or turnkey or other kind of delivery mechanisms. So we were limited on bill of quantity kind of contract on DBB. But for my organization, for ERA, since ERA is executing a big and complex projects and working with the financiers, the World Bank and other financiers, we were working. We were using the FIDIC conditions of contract for DB and for other kinds of contracts. So now we are planning to produce a much number of standards, and I think following the finalization of the proclamation and the directive, the government will proceed with preparing different standard bidding documents for different kind of project delivery strategies. On sustainable procurement, as mentioned by the Demirtaş, it's new concept for us. We didn't apply in our projects. We almost go for the least cost bidding in our tenders. We don't apply the sustainable public procurement practice in our procurement process. But the good thing is currently on our World Bank projects, this becomes a criteria. So now we are becoming familiar with the sustainable public procurement and what is required under the sustainable procurement policy. So we are working on that on the bank's projects, and there is also some exercise by the government PPA, Public Procurement Agency. They are doing some assessment. I think that's also supported by the World Bank they are doing some assessment on sustainable public procurement. So in the near time, that will be applied in all government projects, in addition to the World Bank financed project. So it's already under the process. On the criteria and other issues like participation of state-owned enterprises, as Damalai mentioned, we have different criteria for local and foreign companies. We previously considered that as preference for the locals, but as mentioned in the report, it has implication of discrimination between local and foreign. So we are working on that, and I hope there will be amendment on the preparation of the directive, because following the proclamation, we are going to the revision of the directive. So in that directive will reflect on preparation of non-discriminatory criteria, and the government state-owned enterprise participation and their engagement on the procurement is already addressed in the proclamation, so that may not be an issue after all. PPP, with regard to the PPP, it's new practice for the road sector in the country. It's applied on the power and energy sector. Now we are applying on road sector. We select 4 projects, and one of the 4 projects design or concept note preparation and feasibility studies financed by the World Bank also. So the others are financed by the government. So we are planning to go for PPP kind of project delivery. We also present 2 of the projects for the PPP board of the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance PPP board agreed 2 of the projects to be a pipeline project for PPP. So recently we will proceed with the PPP kind of project delivery. On the use of technologies, the other opportunity was, while MAPS was prepared, the government was practicing the developing software for EGP, public electronics government procurement. Now it's already rolled out, and all the federal government entities are using the EGP platform for procurement of national competitive bidding tenders. Some also practice on international bidding document, but for the World Bank and others, we have to enhance the software in the future, and I hope it will be useful for all kind of procurement in the near future, and it will be expanded to regional level. Currently, it's working on the federal level, so it will be expanded to the other sector. Specific capacity building of the professionals of the sectors. As the Melash mentioned, there is no standardized modules for the training purpose. So this is also one new assignment for the governments. We are working on that. On the other hand, we have to build the capacity of the bidders of the sector. We have limited bidders in the previous time, but as an authority, the Ethiopian Road Authority, do 2 or 3 times capacity building program to develop consultant and contractors in the sectors. And the focus was to increase the number of bidders in the sectors. Now we have to work on their capacity beyond the numbers. So we are planning some arrangement, and we are preparing a document how we can improve the capacity of those local contractors to compete in the sector. The other issues, I think, systematic challenges like foreign currency shortage, LC shortage, price adjustment problem in the document. So those issues, some of the issues are out of control of those sectors, the water and the road sector. For example, the LC and foreign currency issue is controlled by the government, but now the current macroeconomic policy, that is a free float foreign currency exchange, will help the government, will help the sector to get more foreign currency, so that will reduce the challenges in the sector. I think the other is the evaluation process. It needs additional confirmation and justification process from other authorities. But now we are developing a system to record all the data of the bidders when they are competing. So once we evaluate without sufficient data of those companies, so we don't want to go to other companies to check their performance. Further to this, the EGP system will support us to get all the available and verified data through the system, so that will help and reduce the evaluation time. I hope this from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Bekele. And thank you all for sticking around for a couple of more minutes to hear the input from the Ethiopian Roads Administration. Once again, I want to thank all the speakers for being with us today and sharing their experience. And also thanks to the World Bank and to the Ethiopian authorities for undertaking this assessment. We know that sectors are of a key importance and key interest to governments around the world. So we want to make sure that this module is as useful as possible for both governments and for international development partners as well. And for sure, from our point of view, this is an assessment that is one step in that direction. So thank you very much for that. And with that, we will close the webinar for today. The recording will be available on our website. And we hope to see you again in the future for more maps content across the world. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of the day or evening or morning, depending on where you are beaming in from. Thank you.